All right, how's everyone doing? We'll give everybody another minute to kind of show up and then we'll kick off. Today we're gonna try to split the class as best we can in half. First half talk about rhetorical analysis, what it is. I have a handout that I meant to throw up earlier, but this week has been crazy, but it is there now, so you guys will want to go and download that. It is in week 3 modules, just right underneath. Let's look here. Canvas. So the rhetorical analysis handout that I have is like 3 pages long and is under week 3 module. It's right there above the rhetorical analysis handout in between the lecture and rhetorical analysis practice. So that's a handout that we'll go over today. And then we will also go over the peer review handout, which is a sheet you guys will kind of use as a template to help you guys look at these things, or not look at these things. It'll help keep you guys on point with like making sure you guys are helping when editing. You're pointing out things that are helpful for larger issue concerns versus just it being like all I found was grammar and stuff. But anyway, so if you guys want to go ahead and go open up and download that. Oh wait, no announcements. Or actually, I'm gonna create a poll. But first announcement is no class on Monday. I have an eye appointment that's going to run right up to it, and then I'm gonna like do a Survey Monkey poll anywhere or whatever, and find out if you guys would rather have 2 weeks to do your revisions for the lit review and the rough draft, or if you'd rather have me take a week from that and add it to either section 2 or 3, so you get 3 weeks with creating a literature review, so it gives you guys more time to research and create that lit review, and then 3 weeks to create your argument essay, or if you want to have 2 weeks for the lit review, 3 and then 2. But I'll throw up a survey there, but I just wanted to let everybody know, and I'll make an announcement, but there will be no class on Monday because I have an eye appointment. Yeah, and then we'll figure out where we're going for calendar updates, but I'll keep you guys informed, and I wanted your guys' feedback on that. But anyways, if you guys want to go into our class and go ahead and grab that rhetorical analysis handout and go ahead and bring it up, because we're gonna just read over the whole thing and I'll have you guys take turns. So like what we'll do is I'll have somebody read this first part, like, and then somebody will read the elements to analyze. You'll each take a turn, and I'll need volunteers for that. But this will kind of hopefully give you guys some help with what to do and how the rhetorical situation and the rhetorical triangle kind of go together in terms of using them in a rhetorical analysis. Hopefully this makes sense. But go ahead, go download that off of there. It's a Word document. You should have Word by now because it's free through the university. Go ahead and go grab it. Word and PDFs are going to be the 2 easiest ways for you to turn things in. If you are somebody who likes to use Pages or whatever for your Mac, go ahead, but Word and PDF are going to be the easiest for me to like download and annotate. And then yeah, it works best with SpeedGrader. So those are your 2 that you're aiming for. But anyways, go ahead and open up this go ahead and open this up. I'll where are we at here? I'll share my screen so that you guys can see what I got going on here. Can you guys, what does it look like on your screen? You guys can see the rhetorical analysis handout. Who wants to be my guinea pig and go ahead and start reading this for me? Since I see Kaylee right below me in the screen, Kaylee, would you be so kind as to read this first big ass section? Go ahead, go with the quote, and then go ahead and read the bit that tells you what a rhetorical analysis is, please.
Goodness. Okay. A rhetorical analysis is an essay that breaks.
Oh, read the quote first. Read the quote, because this helps frame it, because rhetorical analysis, this is what I feel rhetorical analysis is, and hopefully this will make you understand what rhetoric is, this is my favorite definition ever. Sorry.
Okay. Rhetoric is the art, practice, and study of human communication. Rhetorical analysis is an essay that breaks a communication, essay, speech, cartoon, commercial, etc., into parts. It then explains how the parts work together to create a particular effect, whether to persuade, entertain, or inform. Rhetorical analysis considers all elements of the rhetoric situation: the audience, author, the context, the genre, the medium, and design, the purpose and the stance within a communication was generated and delivered to make an argument about that communication. You can conduct a rhetorical analysis of a written material. Oh no, I lost it.
Oh, did you? Oh, you didn't have it on your screen? Sorry.
No, because my computer makes it like when you show your screen, my entire screen takes it up. And then
Oh, okay. Sorry. I will go
time.
back to screen sharing because the way it was showing was just your black screen of talking. Sorry. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Yes, my bad.
Oh no, I don't know where I was at.
I think you said you can conduct a rhetorical analysis, like right here is where it sounds like you were.
Okay. You can conduct a rhetorical analysis of written material as well as the primarily visual arguments such as a cartoon or advertisement or oral performance such as a speech. In this handout, we will use the word rhetorician,
yeah,
to refer to the author of a speech or document or the creator of an advertisement, cartoon, or other visual work. In other words, the rhetoric is the person who created the original communication. A rhetorical analysis should explore the rhetorician's goals, techniques, or tools used, example of those techniques, and the effectiveness of those techniques. Describe what rhetorical appeals are being made and how a certain melancholy song in the background of a commercial establishes pathos. I'm looking at you, SPCA and Sarah McLaughlin. Now, analyze why an author incorporates personal experience into an essay or what they have left out of the text and shy away from. Evaluate a text's effectiveness and ethicity or lack thereof. Please keep in mind that when writing rhetorical analysis, you are not saying whether or not you agree with the argument. Instead, you're discussing how rhetorician makes that argument and whether or not the approach is used is successful.
All right, so does somebody want to read that first elements to analyze bit, the artistic and inartistic proofs for me? If not, Alexander Rose, you are next on the list. Would you be so kind as to read for us?
Yeah, sure. Just the artistic and inartistic.
Yeah, and then after that, Allison will read the rhetorical triangle bit for us.
Okay. Within any act of rhetoric, there are two types of proofs, artistic and inartistic. An artistic proof is created by the rhetorician and encompasses the appeals, canons, and most of the techniques given below, while an inartistic proof is a proof that exists outside of the rhetorician, such as surveys, polls, testimonies, statistics, facts, and data. Either type of proof can help make a case.
All right, so go ahead and read the rhetorical triangle, please. Allison, I think, is who I had picked on. Yes, it is Allison.
Okay, the rhetorical triangle is a common reference to the three rhetorical appeals identified by Aristotle: ethos, pathos, and logos. These three Greek terms make reference to the primary concepts from which messages in any communication channel are created.
All right. So the three appeals type, go ahead. Let me see here. I keep dropping our participants. Aria, go ahead and read this for us, please.
Sorry, the three appeals or the...
Yes, yeah, the three
okay,
appeals.
cool.
So just read the first one, yeah.
An appeal is an attempt to earn audience approval or agreement by playing to natural human tendencies or common experience. There are three kinds of appeals: pathos, the pathetic, ethos, the ethical, and logos, the logical.
Somebody, let's go ahead with Cameron, if you would be so kind as to read pathos for us.
Pathos, or the pathetic appeal invokes the audience's emotion to gain acceptance and approval for the ideas expressed. Note that this context in the word pathetic has none of the negative connotations associated with it in other contexts, but refers only to the ability to stir emotions. In the pathetic appeal, rhetoricians tap a reader's sympathy and compassion, anger and disappointment, desire for love, or sadness to convince the audience of their argument. Effective rhetoricians can create these feelings in an audience even if the feeling wasn't there before. Example, TV commercials asking viewers to sponsor a third world child appeal to the viewer's compassion and instinct to protect the innocent.
If Cheyenne would be so kind as to read Ethos for us. Cheyenne, are you there?
She said something in chat.
Oh, okay. Jeez, there we go. Where is my chat? There's my chat. My mic isn't working right now. Okay. Chloe, would you be so kind as to read? I think you were next on the list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ethos, or the ethical appeal, uses the writer's own credibility and character to make a case and gain approval. Rhetoricians use themselves and their position as an expert or as a good person to give their argument presence and importance. An everyday example of this is a minister, rabbi, priest, or shaman, individuals who are followed because they have established themselves as moral authorities. Writers using ethos may offer a definition for an obscure term or detailed statistics to establish their authority and knowledge. Example, a speaker from the American Heart Association visiting a kinesiology, I'll re-say that, class to talk about healthy lifestyle choices is a practical example of ethos.
Yeah. And then let's see here. Where's my list? Let's go ahead with Devanya. Would you please read Logos for us?
Logos, or the logical appeal, uses reason to make a case. Academic discourse is mostly logos-driven because academic audiences respect scholarship and evidence. Rhetoricians using logos rely on evidence and proof, whether the proof is hard data or careful reasoning. Example, toothpaste commercials like to appeal to logos by citing statistics and using scientific language to describe the process of preventing cavities.
All right, yeah, and then this I'll just read so you guys like maybe pay a little more attention, maybe not, but it's bold, so that should let you know that it's important. That just remember that in a single document, like or advertisement or any rhetorical situation, they can make all of these appeals, and actually they want to, because like that's the most effective way, is to hit you from all sides. You know, you want to use the science and the facts, and then also like your expertise, and then emotional appeals, and you want to use all of them together to try to make the most effective emotional appeal. These are just tips for helping you guys write a good rhetorical analysis, and then I also have the definitions of a rhetorical situation next. So if somebody wants to read the first bit of Building an Analysis by Pre-Writing, let's see here, who are our participants? Did Gloria just read? No, Gloria has not read. Would you be so kind as to read?
Yes. In writing an effective rhetorical analysis, you should discuss the goal or purpose of the piece, the appeals, evidence and technique used, and why. Example of those appeals, evidence and techniques, and your explanation of why it did or did not work. A good place to start is to answer each of these considerations in a sentence or two in a scratch piece of paper. Don't worry about how it sounds, just answer the questions. Next step is to identify examples of these uncovered techniques in the text. Next, address the effectiveness of each technique.
Okay, and then go ahead. Jaslyn, would you be so kind as to read?
Thesis, body, and conclusion.
Yes, please.
Okay. After brainstorming and doing the actual analysis, you are ready to write a thesis. Remember to choose the 3 or 4 techniques for which you can make the strongest case. Rhetoricians employ many techniques. Focus on the ones that are the most prevalent or interesting and that you can describe persuasively. Finally, write your introduction, paragraphs, and conclusion. An introduction should lead cleanly into your analysis. Your introduction should provide background information on the object of analysis, as well as laying out what elements you will be analyzing and a statement on their effectiveness. Each body paragraph should have its own topic sentence. Make sure every idea or sentence in a paragraph relates to its topic sentence. You don't want to jump between topics. It gives your paper a sense of cohesion to place your body paragraphs in the same order in which they're presented in your introduction. Consider how you will organize the paragraphs. Will you discuss each technique every instance of ethos, then every instance of pathos, and finally every instance of logos, and end with a discussion of the overall effectiveness? Or will you review the essay in terms of the least effective technique to the most effective? Or will you use a chronological order discussing each technique as it occurs sequentially? At the end of each body paragraph, make sure you connect your topic sentence back to your thesis. This creates cohesion, solidifies your argument, and provides a transition to your next topic. The conclusion should briefly restate your main argument. You should then apply your argument on a higher level. Why does your analysis matter? Why does it mean in the real world? Or what does it mean in the real world?
Okay. And then just in case you guys weren't really sure of what rhetorical concepts make up a rhetorical situation, you should, because it should have been taught in 101, and that's something I've been taking for granted. And I know for some of you, it probably feels like a meme where a teacher's like, you'll learn this next year. And then you come into my class and I'm like, you should already know this stuff. But like the rhetorical situation are the things like the audience, the author, the context, the genre. There are different genres that it can be. It can be analysis, it can be an argument or arguing a position, it can be a narrative, your medium and design are things that that make up the rhetorical situation, whether or not it's a written piece or a speech, the purpose that a writer's goal. The 3 main ones are, there are 4 that I put here, is to explore, to express oneself, to entertain, to demonstrate learning, to report, or to persuade, and so on. And then the stance. So all of these things make up the rhetorical situation that the author is responding in. And as you guys will see, once you start looking at like analyzing rhetorical situation stuff, like the audience, that would be a thing that would, if you look at who the audience is, and then if you look at the rhetorical triangle and the things that they are trying to use, you will see how those kind of connect. If it is a academic audience, like they should be trying to use more logic and expertise to make their point versus just using solely pathetic or emotional appeals. So once you start looking at these things like the rhetorical situation, you can talk about whether or not the rhetorical situation that they are writing in, they are responding to well, and then you should be able to connect those as well to the rhetorical situation. So if an author is trying to persuade somebody, how are they doing that? So you would connect those attempts of persuasion to which one of the rhetorical appeals they are using to persuade, if that makes sense. Or does that make sense to you guys? Is what I'm saying making any sense? Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I don't have any question. I just said it makes sense.
Okay. All right. Let's go back up here. So again, an example of these, like again, connecting things to logos, ethos, and pathos. So with, again, I use bell hooks a lot. Like her use of personal stories would be pathos. And if that is in an informal, if that is like the tone of her essay is supposed to be informal based on that, or that's something you decide that is what she is responding to within the rhetorical situation, you would discuss how that informality allows pathos to be effective or ineffective depending on how you, like I said, whether or not the essay lands with you. So if an author is trying to be academic and scholarly, but yet they keep using emotional appeals to try to make their point, that could be something that you point out that is falling flat within the essay, is that the author's audience and tone are being undermined by pathetic appeals or pathos appeals, or if the inverse is true, if they are using a formal academic, like if their audience is academic and their tone is formal, and they're really doing a great job of like using reason to make the case, or they're using statistics, those would be things that you would talk about how those parts of the rhetorical triangle, those appeals are being effective or ineffective based on the rhetorical situation. I hope this makes sense, because it feels like rhetoric is hard for people to understand how to analyze, because there is just so much to analyze. I mean, when you guys read through the way you could stack it, like you can do ethos, pathos, and logos and break down all of the appeals into those and how those are working, and whether or not the rhetorical situation that the author is responding to and the appeals they're using in that response is working based on how the response is supposed to be crafted. Like I said, if it's formal or informal, if it's formal, too much pathos is a bad thing. If it's informal and supposed to be an emotional thing, but all the essayist keeps coming back to is like their expertise in a subject, that's not really vibing very well in an essay that is supposed to be informal and using pathetic appeals to make its case. That sort of thing. And just like I said, when we talk about like how you can sort the essay, if you're not feeling comfortable breaking them down into ethos and logos, you can not necessarily do that, because as we said, you could talk about what is most effective in terms of their technique and least effective, and then during the editing process we can try to make connections to ethos, pathos, and logos, because if you go any further in rhetoric or English or any of this stuff, like knowing these terms and these sort of things are just helpful to have. And yeah, any questions so far on this? Anything that I've just steamrolled you with? Is this making things more clear or less clear? Because we got a few more minutes before we move on to peer review stuff. We got like 10 minutes we can take here, because peer review isn't going to be that hard to talk about, and then I'll give you guys a video on how to do that this weekend instead of walking you through it live, because I don't have anything set up yet. Any questions on this so far? Anything that needs explaining? Or because if you're confused, somebody else is confused, I can guarantee it. Go ahead and hit me with your questions. Anything I can try to help expand on?
So in the rhetorical analysis, do we need to discuss several different elements that we thought was either effective or ineffective in the author, like in the story, or do we just focus on one? Or
you're going to want to focus on as many as you can, because you're going to find some aren't as like writing a 3-page paper on just ethos, pathos, or logos. Those kind of things would be difficult to do, but yeah, you'll just want to focus on like as much as you can. So like I said, like going from like, you're going to want to pick out the things that are easiest to do, because you're not going to hit everyone, but you're going to want to hit the most prevalent ones. So if an essayist is really relying on statistics, you would really want to discuss how they use those statistics and whether or not that use of the statistics enhances their argument in your opinion, or if it detracts from their argument. Because I'm sure you've had information overload from people when they've argued with you, where they throw out so many statistics or so many facts at one point in time you can't grasp and make sense out of them. So if an author is doing that, you could talk about how they're doing it poorly or how they're doing it well. You would want to try to talk about as much as you can. So you would talk about that, and then you could talk about how an author is effectively using statistics to talk about poverty, and then also their own lived experience, which isn't quantitative data, which yeah, so that would be a whole thing, like quantitative versus qualitative. Like qualitative stuff is like things you can feel, like personal experience would be a qualitative thing, like talking about their experience as a minority and being poor is a qualitative thing that you can't really measure. But statistics on the trouble that like um, people in poverty face throughout the world, that would be like statistics. Or yeah, so how they combine those, you could talk about how the author, you know, bolsters their use of statistics by showing you, by bringing it to a real person. So that could be a pathetic appeal you focus on. You kind of want to focus on anything and everything that caught your eye in a paper, and it's not going to be the same for everybody, because some people are going to be more motivated, say with the, I think it's the Peace article about the disability sports and representation. Like some people are going to find the fact that he brings in his own lived experience in that, because he is somebody who participates in those sports and does that sort of stuff. So that could be something somebody could focus on for 2 pages, and then they only have a little bit about like his use of statistics or bringing in outside voices. So everything in the paper is on the table. It's just got to be kind of organized logically, if that makes any sense, and kind of
Yeah.
together. So if you're talking about their use of statistics and other studies and this and that sort of stuff, you would kind of want to lump that all under like whichever, like ethos, pathos, or logos. Yeah, you know, or those would be logos or I mean inartistic proofs as well. So you could even bring in that, like their use of inartistic proofs, if they're relying too much on the statistics to make their argument and it falls flat and they're not using enough of their own words to persuade. That could be something you could talk about. I feel like I'm rambling, but anything and everything is on the table. Hopefully this makes sense.
But like, could you focus on like just their use of ethos, logos, and pathos, and like discuss each one of those?
Yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
in detail.
Yeah, you could totally break down the paper and go, ethos was the strongest, or pathos. Yeah, you could basically break down your, yeah, you could totally be like, in my analysis, I will show, and this is just a really poor, you'd want to go into depth and like show different little bits and tie them in. So you could in your introduction say like, this author's over reliance on logos made their essay feel weaker because, you know, whatever. But yeah, you can break it down and just discuss them in terms of ethos, pathos, and logos, and which set of the 3 appeals was most prevalent and strongest. Yeah, so you can organize it that way, or you can totally not talk about ethos, pathos, and logos in terms of grouping them, and just talk about which appeals were, which rhetorical tactics were strongest, which were weakest, you know, because some authors do try to be personable with their tone, and it just comes across flat, and other people, you know, are really good at writing a personal essay. So those are all things you could do. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on this? Anything that they didn't understand about ethos, pathos, logos? I know I just kind of literally threw that at you today. Like any of this stuff, like needing some more clarification?
I just have a question. It's not about the ethos, but when we do write our rhetorical analysis, are we picking our own article or the article that we've been doing our last 2 assignments on?
You're going to use the article that you're doing your last 2 assignments on. So if you've read the Peace one, the Hooks one, the rhetorical analysis will be on whichever article you chose to read. And I limited it to those 5 because I just don't want to have like 15 people give me 15 different articles. So the article you've been reading should be the one you do this on. I mean, if you've read multiple articles, you can switch it up, but most people I find the one that kind of interests them and talks about a subject they're interested in and kind of sticks with it. So, but yeah, you could totally, if you've read multiple articles and you want to turn in a rhetorical analysis about, say, the As the World Burns, the comic one, but you've been writing on hooks, go ahead and switch it up. It's just, once we go from here and you've done all this stuff, you can't really just randomly switch like subjects that your research question is going to be rooted in, because we're using the discussions in these essays as like jumping points for further questions. And we'll get into that like after we'll get into that kind of next week, and then after it, like once the final draft is due, you'll get more, but we'll preview what's coming up next week so you're not blindsided. And that's where the whole survey will come in as to whether or not you want 3 weeks on on parts 2 and 3, or if you want, yeah, anyways. Did that answer your question? I feel like I ran.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
What other questions do we got before we move on to our peer review stuff? And then, like I said, I'll give you guys a video on how to do it because I haven't done any of that yet. But some of you may have done peer reviews before online. How many of you have? I would say show of hands, but just like say yes if you have. Have any of you done peer reviews online through Canvas before? Alrighty. Oh, somebody has?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, cool. So at least I have one person who's done it. Like, I never really actually did it prior to this because none of my classes have required it, or if they did, we always did peer review in person. So this will be a new experience for you guys. It's intimidating at first, but it's not that hard. Last chance for questions on this handout. Hopefully it helps. Any other questions on that before we move on? Because we got like 15-ish minutes. Alrighty, we are going to move on. So go ahead and open up that peer review handout, rhetorical analysis bit that's on Canvas if you can. While you guys are opening that, so what you'll do on this is you'll fill this sheet out as well as leave in-text notation in their essay. But you are going to attach this to the peer review, and I'll show you in the video how to attach this file. So you'll have to download this, put the name of the writer. You don't have to put your name because I want it to be anonymous. So that helps you guys not feel like worried that somebody's gonna like message you and be like, "Hey man, what the fuck were you were mean," you know, or something. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. But yeah, I want it to be anonymous. But also keep in mind that that doesn't give you free reign to just like crap all over somebody's paper and be like, this is the worst thing ever, restart. You guys got to be kind, be courteous, understand that this is a learning process for all of us. You know, some writers aren't as strong as others. It takes, or some people aren't as comfortable writing with a rhetorical analysis versus their argument, you know, because I can almost guarantee you I will find that somebody who does an okay rhetorical analysis or somebody who's not comfortable with it will kill at the other parts because that's just where their writing strengths lie. Anyways, this is your peer review rhetorical analysis handout. You'll use this as a guide to help you give them notes as well as attaching it to it and then doing your own thing. And I have another sheet I can add as well if you guys are uncomfortable with peer reviewing and making sure you guys are giving good feedback. And I'll be giving feedback too as well, so that kind of alleviates it. It doesn't put the burden solely on you guys of finding them good stuff to fix. It pretty much puts it on me and then helps by adding the stuff you did. And it also gives you guys a chance to read another paper and maybe something will click. Like somebody's paper you'll read will be like, oh, I really like the way that they structured there, and you can like cannibalize your paper and restructure it to match theirs. But anyways, directions. So you need to be specific in your comments to the writer. Don't use vague ones because they will not help as much as they are specific. Remember, the more carefully you review your peer's paper, the more it will help in your own writing process. Like I said, you'll find things that either you like or you'll notice things that you do that when not reading your own paper, because I find that I read my papers and I'm like, yes, I did excellent. And then somebody will do something I did in my paper and theirs, and I'll be kind of like, does that work? So like, it might make you think about your paper. Be sure to number each paragraph in the writer's draft and refer to those numbers when making comments. And then again, you can use as much, you know, you don't have to just keep it in the space allotted. It's a Word document. Do what you want. So first off, does the writer include the author's name and title of the original work in the introduction? Does the writer introduce the topic using appropriate background information? So like that would just be in Bell Hooks's whatever essay, and then introduce the subject that they're talking about. She goes on to discuss the role that popular culture portrays in not only the portrayal of people in poverty, but how they feel about themselves. That could be a quick introduction that kind of gives me a synopsis of what she's talking about, as well as the title, the introduction. So that's something you'll want to look at and make sure they have, because if they don't talk about that, then you don't really know what the article is. And again, give a brief summary so that the people who haven't read your article have an idea of what you're doing. Does the essay have a clear sentence outline that, that outlines the focus of this paper? If not, how can they express it? Again, that would be your thesis. For the sake of this, it would be like an evaluative statement. I don't know if that's the real word, evaluative. It's a word I made up. Fun fact, if you tell people it's a neologism, that's the word for making up new words, and it gives you like a get out of jail free card with people saying it's not a real word. Tell them that, and then you'll be like, I know linguistics, shut up. I do that all the time. Anyways, so yeah, you would want to make sure that that thesis statement is your evaluative statement about whether or not you feel that the argument is well. So like my thesis statement would be Hooks's use of ethos, pathos, and logos, citing real examples. I would like put ethos, pathos, and logos in parentheses next to those examples. So I'd be like, Hooks's use of a warm and inviting narration style, that would be her pathos, coupled with her expertise and use of facts, those would be the ethos and logos, have created an argument that is persuasive in my opinion. That would be my thesis statement. Is that clear? And then I kind of am previewing there, as you can see, just roughly like I'm going to talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. That's how I'm going to group my essay. That would be a thing that you want to make sure is done clearly, because that clear thesis statement in the opening paragraph sets me up to know what I'm doing, what my rhetorical analysis is trying to say, and then also how my paper is structured. This is in that other handout, but again, you'll comment on that here. Is each paragraph distinct? Have one distinct idea connecting the rhetorical strategies used in the speech. I just left speech there because I guess I could put in the communication since they're all different. But and then you want to make sure each idea is clearly stated, and then how, if not, how can the writer explain each idea more clearly? So you're going to want to make sure that they're following that rule of one subject per paragraph. So you don't want to have like ethos, pathos, logos all crammed into a 3-page paragraph. You'd want to break those up, and then you want to even when talking about ethos, pathos, logos as that setup, if you're talking about ethos and you have like 4 different things, make sure there's a paragraph about each of the ethos appeals in the essay, that sort of a thing. So like even when you set it up, ethos, pathos, logos is what I'm going to talk about, or most effective to least effective, make sure that like each paragraph has one element to it, because when you start talking about 4 or 5 things in a paragraph, it just gets kind of brain fuzzy, and it comes across a little more like the people like rambling on the street. Like it just comes across as incoherent and not well thought out. Does the remainder of each paragraph use evidence to support the idea? Does the writer connect their ideas about the rhetorical situation to the rhetorical triangle? Are there sentences that address any different idea? Again, so that one, I want to make sure that each paragraph has its own thing, and then there's textual evidence supporting that. So usually I would say, this example, like I would intro like, oh, this rhetorical appeal, this section is a great example of Hooks getting really personal with her story, and then I would use a quote showing like a snippet of the story, and then I would analyze how getting personal with that story is effective in her rhetoric, if that makes sense. So that's the sort of thing you want to do, is make sure that the paragraph has one subject and that you're using textual evidence and analysis after that initial claim within your paragraph. So make sure you're backing those things up. I put that, does the writer connect the ideas of about the rhetorical situation to the rhetorical triangle? I put that there because I think it helps. So if you can talk about how an author is like responding in a formal tone, but if they're not hitting that, like you could connect that to like the audience within this, because you can tell like the jargon, that is supposed to be academic, but it's falling short because they're not using enough actual statistics to back it up. That would be something that you would talk about, like the purpose or the audience of it is, how the audience of it is not, how the rhetorical situation is not living up to the rhetorical appeal that he wants, because he's relying too much on emotion, too much on this or that. I hope that makes sense. It feels like a weird ramble. But if you can connect those two together, way to go. And that's just an extra like challenge for you guys because it's something I still struggle to do. But if you guys can do that, great. If not, and your essayist has ideas on how you can connect those after reflection, go ahead and throw those down. Yeah, and then does the conclusion summarize the ideas expressed in the paper in a clear, organized way? Does it introduce new ideas? Yeah, and then lastly, is the paper organized, structured in a logic, coherent manner? Does the writer organize the paper by themes or by rhetorical strategies? Does the writer maintain a consistent method of organization? These last ones are all about like, these last two are all about organization, whether or not they do it right. So like I said, if you're talking about ethos, pathos, and logos in your entry, and that's how you're gonna like organize it, but then the rest of the essay, you don't organize it by ethos, pathos, and logos, you organize it by strongest to weakest. That would be something you could totally point out, be like, bruh, you hit me with the ethos, pathos, logos. I was really excited to have it be staggered that way, but then you switched up to most effective to least effective. You could offer an idea about how to fix that, those sort of things. And then again, I leave you guys a last little section, and it's literally, yeah, you'll have to put it on its own page depending, but you want to write any suggestions you have to help the author, and those can either be tied back to the 5 or just in general, if you find like, this is where you can put general,
Hello, no one is available to take your call.
Aesthetic concerns, I guess. So if a person, what was I trying to say? Oh yeah, so this could be where you could put your typical like line edit stuff. So put that here. So if they have run-on sentences or sentences that feel like just a jumbled word mess, you could totally put that here. This is for miscellaneous stuff. So if you're finding somebody has like a paragraph that is a sentence long, you could totally put paragraph 6, only one sentence, break it up into multiple sentences. Like that would be a thing for here. This can be for line edits, any random things you think will help. And again, as the person writing, you can implement as much or as little as you want of the peer review stuff, and even my stuff, but know full well that if I'm giving you real things to fix and you don't fix them in mine, or the other person is giving you real things to fix, go ahead and yeah. Geez, wow, I lost my, go ahead and do them or don't do them. That's up to you. But know that if I'm giving you real things to do and you don't, you will get marked down for them. So if there's a ton of things and you just choose not to do any sort of edits, that's on you. Do as much or as little as people suggest, but know that it's on you if you don't do enough. And again, like I said, kind of take theirs with a grain of salt. Look at it, and you don't have to take everybody's information because you may have a different writing style than somebody. But if they give you something that is genuinely like, if they're like, oh, you're not like actually like doing enough expanding in your own words after a quote, why that quote fits into, you know, a pathetic appeal or whatever, then like I would definitely suggest doing that. But some stylistic things you can take with a grain of salt. Do we have any questions here? We got 5 minutes left. I'm gonna let you guys hit me with questions and then we'll call it a day. So I'm gonna stop my share. What questions you guys got? I know that was a lot to throw at you. All right. All right. Any other? Yeah. We got like 5 minutes. Any questions about the discussion board this week? Any of that stuff? Because the discussion board kind of goes over the same thing. Like I have it set up to where you have to find the tone, purpose, and audience in the paper, and then you have to find a quote that kind of backs up your assertion about the tone, purpose, and audience, and then you expand as to why that quote you're using supports your thing. So does that make sense? You're picking the tone, purpose, audience, finding a quote that helps support it, and then you're going to expand in terms of, and rhetorically analyze that quote to help make your point of an article is formal or informal, or the purpose it's to persuade or inform. So that's what you'll do in the discussion board, and then you're going to respond critically to two people and kind of edit in the same way you would edit in their session. So if somebody has a really great quote and point, but they're not expanding as much as they would, you could put expand more. Here are some possible suggestions on how to expand. So the discussion board is kind of a mock like run through of revising or editing, or revising, I should say, because revision and editing are two different things according to our book. Yeah, any questions on that, the discussion board, any of that? I mean, we have chapter 12, but revising and editing, it's all it really goes over, and it basically says revision is treating a work like it's not finished, like you're looking for new ideas, new ways to enhance and complete that essay in terms of the ideas within it and the arguments laid out, whereas editing is just the grammar, like style, line stuff, you know, and we're at the revision phase, so you're really trying to help each other like hone in on the ideas for our papers, and that you're not really helping somebody cure their comma splices or the run-on sentences. That's something you can do in that last little bit if you see it and there's some things that are distracting, but that should not be your only focus. And I hope that has become abundantly clear, because I've had that problem before where I don't make it clear, and then we get into something and somebody will literally turn in a paper that all the person has done is like, oh, there's run-on sentences, and it's like, that doesn't help the person. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at ideas and how to improve those and polish those and make those clearer versus editing grammar and line stuff. Any questions on that? Also, sorry, I literally just like any question and then like, no, shut up. The book, some people have been having trouble going through like the links that I'm hooking into the module. So if that's happening, just go into the Launchpad and go into the ebook, and you can access everything that way without having to click on the little stupid things I've assigned. Because yeah, if you do that, then yeah. So if you do that, then you should be good. Yeah, if you go through the ebook and not through Launchpad, if you're having trouble, you should be able to access everything. And if not, let me know what we're having trouble, because I have the 5 articles on my computer and I can upload them. So if people are still having trouble or the ebook is not working as a way to go through and find the stuff that I have assigned, please let me know and I'll work on it. But as of right now, the Launchpad bit and it telling you stuff, it keeps doing the same to me, and I've done tickets, and my assertion that I've told people many a time is technology right now is pretty okay at doing things like this, but it's not great, and it's really starting to show. And unfortunately for us, like the university is forcing us into like putting books into tuition and shit instead of being like, go steal a PDF of it somewhere. I'm not supposed to condone stealing books, but I do. Anyways, questions? All right. Your guys' silence either means that you guys are understanding or I just confused you guys horrifically. I'm gonna let you all go. I'll throw the recording up on this. I'll throw the recording of this Zoom session on Canvas. Yeah, there's that assignment sheet, everything. So you guys have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow, office hours if need be. If not, next week, like Tuesday, we can, I'll send out a poll and see if anybody wants to meet on Tuesday since we aren't meeting Monday. But yeah, I'll see you guys sometime next week. I have office hours tomorrow, and you guys can always get a hold of me with emails most times of the day. Have a good day. Thank you.
Yes,
go ahead.
So in this time, so we do not talk about like anything about the writer, I mean the author or something.
You don't really talk about the author per se. You talk about what they're doing in the essay. So if the author is being more informal or personal with their talk, you would talk about that, but you wouldn't necessarily go look up the author and discuss them in detail. So you're not going to give me a rundown of who like Bell Hooks is as an author. You're just going to talk about what she's doing in her paper, if that makes sense.
Yeah, is it only like Ethos, Logo, and Pathos?
Yeah, so ethos, pathos, and logos are the things you would talk about, like those sort of ideas of rhetoric. So you could break down, again, so like an author's use of language or formal or informal language could be under pathos depending on where they're doing. So that's the hard thing. So an author using informal language easily using pathos or a pathetic appeal to make you feel more comfortable with them emotionally, whereas another author using academic language might be considered under ethos because they are showing their expertise in the field by remaining academic, if that makes sense. So ethos, pathos, and logos are the three you would break it down to, but depending on what a thing is or what they're trying, the end goal is, like all acts of speech aren't going to fall under ethos or pathos. They can fall under different ones, and that's the tricky part. And I can look up, maybe I'll do that and I'll find a good YouTube video that talks about the rhetorical triangle and throw it up there. But yeah, so ethos, pathos, and logos are going to be your easiest ways to lump everything together in terms of talking about things. And then, yeah, ethos, pathos, and logos, all things will depend on where they fall under those, under what they are. So like most use of statistics would be considered like logos, I think. I think that would be like, that would be a logical appeal. Yeah, I think so.
So do you have like posts anywhere else on campus, like instruction guide or like the tips what we include on this time essay? Or
the guide that I just gave you is all that I have in terms of what to include, but I can go and find another video that talks about rhetorical analysis. There's a 5-minute video I threw up from YouTube that talks about rhetorical analysis and what to do and how to do them. But ethos, pathos, logos are going to be your easiest ways to group things, and then yeah, just discuss them under those banners. So like I said, let's go ahead to my handout. I'll open recent rhetorical analysis handout. So yeah, so ethos, pathos, logos. So again, pathos is the audience's emotion. So anytime the author is trying to make an emotional connection to the audience, like I said, hooks using real people would be a pathetic appeal. And again, like I said, I will go and I will find a better example that gives you examples of ethos, pathos, and logos within a paper. Does that make sense?
cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. I will definitely go look for that now because I got a couple hours before my next class, and I will throw that up and throw out an announcement saying that here's an example of, here's ethos, pathos, logos broke down with like real world. I'm assuming that's what you want, is real world examples of ethos, pathos, and logos within a paper or something.
No, I'm just wondering like if anything else we can apply to our essays or our next assignment. Like you know, like I see what you mean by like ethos, pathos, logos, but like I just want to know like if any other like
the rhetorical
instruction that we can apply to the paper. That's why I need to know that.
Yeah, I think as of right now, that's what I've got. I'll try to think of some more stuff, but yeah. If you talk about ethos, pathos, and logos, like the rhetorical triangle, and then also connect the rhetorical situation that the author is talking in to how they are using ethos, pathos, and logos, that would help too, if that makes sense.
Cool. Okay. I see it now.
So if an author, so like the rhetorical situation of an author is their audience is an academic audience, like how that rhetorical situation of audience is affecting their use of like ethos or whatever, those would be things you could connect. So try to connect the rhetorical situation that the author is writing into the rhetorical appeals that they're making, and then that should maybe help, hopefully.
All right.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I'll go fish around for some other videos because I'm not a rhetorician. That's not my strong suit. So I always feel highly unconfident, like teaching this little bit. So hopefully I'm helping, not hurting anybody. But yeah, I will look for some more stuff to help explain how to apply this sort of stuff to a rhetorical analysis.
All right. Okay. Already. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too, Professor. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.